Hi guys, welcome back to another episode of the Storytime Society. I'm so happy you're here. I'm so glad you're alive. Thanks for tuning in to another episode. The theme of this episode is True Off My Chest with updates. I know you guys love to hear it, okay? Let's get into it. The title of the first story is My soon-to-be ex-husband and my sister threw everything they cared for away for 1 week. My sister's best friend told me that she feels guilty for being a snitch, but that she couldn't do this to me anymore because she thinks that I am a kind person and I don't deserve this. My sister and my husband have always got along very well. They're both brilliant, both lecturers at the university, and they have so much in common. I'm not stupid, but I never loved school and I have a high school education. They have become best friends throughout the years, 14 years, but never once did I feel uncomfortable about it since my husband has shown me nothing but love and respect. Until now, I counted myself lucky that the two people that I love the most in this world get along so well. But now I feel nauseated. The best friend sent me screenshots upon screenshots of her conversation with my sister. My sister has feelings for my husband, and she appears to know that my husband feels the same way about her too. In one of the texts, my sister wrote that she loved me too much to do anything to hurt me. In another, she wrote that I'm too dear to both her and my husband to do anything that would hurt me. She seems to think that they're soulmates, which is odd because the talk about soulmates came up once between my husband and I when I told him that I didn't want us to be soulmates. He was curious and asked me why. I told him because soulmates meant that they were programmed or destined to fit together. There's no free will involved, and I want my love to come from a free space, not a predestined space. He laughed and said he loved that, but apparently they're soulmates. I know that I need to talk to him, but I'm dreading that. I'm in so much despair right now. Okay, there's an edit, same post, same day. Hi, thanks for your help. I asked how I would be sure before asking my husband so he doesn't just blatantly lie, and you suggested to look into his phone. Thanks for your suggestion. I did now. I told him about my sister's conversations with her best friend and showed him the screenshots. He was shocked at first and said he had no romantic feelings for her and he had no idea about her feelings. So I asked to see his phone. I read their texts and their emails, and I was shocked that their contact is way more intensive and intense than I thought. They talk on a daily basis. They have lunch multiple times a week. Nothing sexual in the texts, but yeah, he is stupid if he doesn't know that she loves him. And he must think that I'm stupid if after reading, I wouldn't get the feeling that he has some feelings too. In one of her texts, she wrote that she wished they had met first and under different circumstances. His answer was totally dismissive. He wrote, yeah, it would probably have been different. And when I asked him about it, he said, well, yeah, if he didn't know and love me, he would probably have been interested in another, my sister included. But he loves me, and she's a close friend of his. So there's no sexual relationship between them. But I'm not sure if that's enough for me. I think that they're both wrong and they should have nipped it in the bud way earlier. I don't know what to do now. I think I need time for myself to process this. I don't feel well at all about this, and I don't want to make decisions from a place of fear and hurt, nor convenience. I'm sorry I can't answer all the private messages because I don't use my phone that often, but our ages are, my husband is 45, I'm 42, and my sister is 38. My husband and I have been together for 16 years and married for 14. My sister is single. I'm not a stay-at-home mom. I have my own business. We don't have children. My sister has 2 from a previous relationship. I mean, how do you not, I'm not blaming this on her at all, but how do you not know that your husband is going to lunch with your sister? And that's more so me saying, how is her husband not telling, or even her sister, how are these people not telling her that they're going to lunch multiple times a week? And like, what about me? What about going to lunch with me, your wife? And then that's just crazy. If I even felt even a little bit like I was going to catch feelings for my sister's husband that she's been with for 16 years, I would cut all contact and only have contact when it was like when it was necessary, if I was with my sister or she invited me somewhere. I would absolutely never continue entertaining that situation. And then same with him. He's not dumb. She said they're brilliant. Oh, it sounds like it sounds like at least he's trying to act like he's dumb as hell. Because if you're so brilliant, you definitely know that saying that to someone, saying that to being like, I wish we met before you met my sister and under different circumstances. No, he's just playing dumb. I don't even know why I'm taking that comment seriously, because he's for sure just playing dumb, weaponizing incompetence. Okay, there's an update next day. So now I've had some long talks and discussions with my husband. He seems to think that this is getting bigger than it's supposed to, because I told him that I needed time alone to think and digest this. He said that he doesn't understand why I'm this hurt, since he loves me and nobody else. I didn't relent, however, and he admitted that he knows that my sister is in love with him because she has told him so. But she knows that nothing can happen between them, so she is fine with just friendship. Martyr. He loves her, but not romantically, and he's happy to have a friend like her. Their friendship is important to him, and he doesn't want it to end because I don't trust him and his love for me. He made a comparison to my best friend and asked what I would think if he asked me to cut my best friend from my life. He admitted that intellectually, he has more in common with her than with me, but that the heart doesn't always choose who we're more compatible, and that he loves and is physically attracted to me. I think this whole situation is messed up. I am repulsed by them both. I texted my sister all her screenshots, and she wrote that she was disappointed in her best friend and that, quote, your husband is all yours because I would never let anything happen that would hurt you because you're the most important person to me. In other words, they are both contradicting each other, since both seem to believe that they're the one who is not letting a relationship between them grow for my sake. No, absolutely not. And that is so hurtful. If my husband admitted that he's intellectually more compatible with my sister, that would make me feel like a fucking idiot. That would make me feel like scum, like gum on the bottom of the goddamn shoe. And also the comparison in him saying, what if I asked you to cut your best friend off? My best friend's not in love with me and I'm not in love with her and I don't want to like bang her. So actually that has nothing to do with each other. You cannot even compare that. Ew. If you love someone, you're not going to continue having a relationship with someone that is crossing boundaries. And I don't care what you say. I would never do anything that would hurt you. I would never let anything happen that would hurt you. Well, you already did, because doing this is already hurting me. What do you think I'm going to be fine with it? I'm going to be like, it's fine. No. Okay, there's another update, and it's a month and a week later. I've written here in a few comments about my soon-to-be ex-husband and my sister. I left him about a week after, and he texted me day and night about how much he loved me and wanted me back. Then he just stopped, and that's when I found out that my sister left her children at my parents' house and moved in with my husband. This made everything come out to the rest of my family, and my parents were shocked. And my mother really looked like she was already showing PTSD symptoms about how disgusting she felt this whole thing was. She kept calling it incest and asking, is that even legal? I guess that's how much my sister cared not to hurt me. Even though I have been well composed and calm, that I surprised myself, I still tried my hardest to look back on my whole life, childhood and upbringing, to understand when it all went so wrong. What my sister did felt like something that was the result of years of resentment, or at least indifference towards me and our relationship as sisters. So how did I miss that? She never cared about me, did she? And if she didn't, how could I have been so blind? Then, not even a week later, I heard that they have ended things. I found out in the oddest way possible. My sister texted me. The first time she texted me since everything started. She wrote, "You bitch. I hope you burn in life and in hell." I was very confused because she spent that week sharing cheesy, deep quotes about love and soulmates and romantic Insta stories with my soon-to-be ex-husband. But apparently that was over. My soon-to-be ex-husband has blocked her everywhere, and she moved out because she came to my parents to get her children and had a meltdown when they asked for an explanation. My soon-to-be ex-husband started calling and texting me again, asking me to meet because he wanted to explain, because he loved me and wanted me to understand. He wanted to meet at least once before we started to meet with the lawyers involved. So, that's that. This has left me even more confused than if they just ended up together. I understand falling out and in love, breaking up and starting anew, but I can't explain this. My soon-to-be ex-husband keeps calling me his only love and true friend. And my sister, until I left, kept promising that she would never do anything to hurt me. She left her children at my parents' doorstep and didn't answer their calls or texts for a week. And all of this for a week? What were they thinking? Has anyone here heard of something like this happening? People throwing everything away for not even a week? Oh my God. That's insane. She should not be able to have those kids. She should not be able to parent those kids, because you're telling me that you are so male-centered that you're going to drop your kids off and then not even care or think or speak to them for a week, or not even ask your parents how they're doing, if they're okay. No, something is severely wrong with you. I really want to know what happened. Like, why did it only last a week? What happened that you guys decided to end things after only a week, when you guys have been continuing this basically an affair for so long, for so many years, and then you try it out and it's like, never mind. Yeah, no, sorry. Was it the thrill of it? Was the adrenaline during the relationship because you guys were practically having an affair? Is that what made it so exciting? And then once that was over, you're like, actually, yeah, this isn't as fun as I thought it was going to be. The top comment says, that old joke about that's not how your sister does it during sex is what I imagine happened. And then someone responded, I think he thought that he was going to get everything from the sister that he got from his wife, plus her ability to discuss or even share his intellectual interests, and then discovered that isn't how things work. Yeah, that's like when people leave, like they have like 80%, you know, that there's always that comparison. I don't know if this is something that I heard on a church sermon when I was growing up or something, but I always remember hearing this, and it was like, or it's just a common phrase, but like when you're with someone that gives you 80% of what you want and you need in a relationship, and you're missing that 20%, so then you try to seek that out in someone else, and then you leave the 80% for the 20%, and then you realize once you're in the 20% relationship that you're actually missing 80%, and then it's like, actually, I would much rather be having an 80%, the 80% that they give me, than this 20%, you know? I don't know. I don't think that's even that great of like a saying, to be honest, because, I mean, I don't think that, I don't know, whatever. Okay, the title of the next story is, I think my sister's boyfriend, male 44, is infatuated with my son, male 13. Trigger warning, pedo, grooming, stalking, harassment. Oh gosh, I'm kind of scared for this. I, female 38, am a single mother living on a waitress salary. Times are tough right now, and due to unforeseen circumstances, I've had to move in with my sister for the past couple months. It's not an ideal situation, but I'm doing my best. I have an ex-husband, male 40, who is emotionally abusive, hence the divorce. We share custody of my incredible son, let's call him Roman, 13, who has been so understanding of our financial situation, even at his age. I love him more than I love myself. He is kind and intelligent. He stole my ex-husband's face, unfortunately, so he's beautiful. Every mama will say their son is beautiful, but my kid really is stunningly gorgeous. The amount of adults my age and older who have given him the creepy and unwarranted, he's going to be a heartbreaker in a few years, comments would alarm you. He has ADHD, but maintains decent grades. He plays a sport and is good at it. He has lots of friends who he visits often, and vice versa. Despite the changes in our living situation, he is thriving, and I would do anything to keep that up. My sister, let's call her Sarah, 42, and her boyfriend, let's call him David, 44, are well off and live in a massive house. My sister was happy to take me in, but her boyfriend, David, not so much, which I completely understand. I offered to pay rent, but my sister won't have any of it. So I do chores around the house and cook as often as my work schedule will let me. I never saw much of David anyway. He was often at the bar with his friends, or working, or locked in his room playing video games. But when we did see each other, he acted like I didn't exist. My son Roman was staying with his dad for a while as I was figuring things out, and I was worried about David's attitude once my son moved in with us. I talked to David and promised him that Roman would be respectful and well behaved, but he was weird about it and shrugged me off. And then David met Roman. David is absolutely fascinated with my kid. His disposition changed so quickly that it gave me whiplash. Suddenly, he stopped locking himself in his room and has decided to spend time with us. Well, mostly my son. He helps Roman with his homework. He watches all of Roman's favorite shows so that they can talk about them together. He buys him food and gifts. My sister Sarah is over the moon. She's been telling me about how us moving in has been the best thing for their relationship because David is happier now. I thought it was sweet at first, but in the back of my head, I think something more nefarious could be going on. To paint a clearer picture, I've noted some other things I've noticed that I can't decide whether they're innocent or not. One, David texts my son often, which wouldn't be weird except he does it while he's at school. The texts themselves aren't weird at all, but David lightly scolds him for not replying sometimes. Two, before my son moved in, David was rarely ever home during the afternoon and evenings. He'd stay out after work and go drinking with his buddies until late in the night, a habit he's had for years, according to my sister. And now he's home all the time. He gets home before Roman gets off the bus around 3:15 p.m. if he's not at practice, and he stays home all day, even offering to babysit while I'm working through the evening. He still drinks, just in the house. 3, last Wednesday, I woke up to use the bathroom during the middle of the night. To get to the bathroom, you have to pass by my son's room. I was surprised to see that the door was closed all the way, since Roman always likes it open because his room gets hot at night. Also, he has been staying up late texting his friends lately, which has caused him to sleep through his alarm and miss the bus some days. So that night, I opened the door to let the air in and make sure he was asleep. And there was David, standing by Roman's bed, in the dark. He stated that he was looking for his cell phone, but I saw him jump with anxiety when I opened the door. He left quickly, muttering something about how it might be in the kitchen. Why would his phone be in my son's room? And why was the door closed? 4, David offers to drive my son everywhere he needs to go. Only him. School, if he misses the bus. Practice. His friends' houses. This is the same man who wouldn't lift a finger for me until my son moved in. It's been incredibly helpful since I'm not home often, but a part of me wonders if he's doing it for the wrong reasons. 5, I caught David doing Roman's laundry, resulting in a few articles of clothing going missing. This one irritated me because I make my son do his own laundry. I asked him not to do this, but his excuse is that he's trying to save water. I don't know how to fight him on this since it's his house. I am terrified to bring it up to my sister. Am I reading into things too much? Am I silly for worrying that he might have ulterior motives? If I tell my sister and she gets angry and there's nothing going on, she'll kick us out and we'll be homeless.
Storytime Society is now available on all listening platforms. If you are on any of those listening platforms, I would really appreciate it if you rated me 5 stars. Thanks for all the support.
I'm actually almost just literally started to have a panic attack. Number 3, you woke up to use the bathroom and you saw someone in his room, standing over him while he was sleeping with the door closed, saying he's looking for his phone. First of all, it's in the middle of the night. Second of all, why would you close the door to look for your phone? Why would you be closing the door? You would go in there, the door would be open, and you would be like, oh, where's my phone? I don't really think you'd be going in. Like, there's just no question. I don't even need to explain. I don't even need to make excuses. Obviously, something's happening. And maybe, oh my God, I'm actually going to freak out. I'm going to literally crash the fuck out right now. Maybe your son is not waking up in the morning because maybe someone is coming into his room late at night and doing something. That's what I would be concerned about. And I would immediately, I think I would be sleeping in my kid's room every single day after I saw this man in the middle of the night. I am so concerned. No, I'd probably not. I mean, I don't know because it's hard because it's like, I want to say get the fuck out, obviously, go somewhere else, anywhere else possible. But it's like, is that really the only other option? Is that she has to be homeless if they're not staying with her sister. I'm literally so scared. This poor little boy, like, I really hope to God, like, I genuinely hope so badly that nothing has happened and it's just been, he's just being creepy and like thinking about it. But I really hope that physically or even emotionally, mentally, like, I really hope nothing has happened and she like catches it before it goes anywhere bad. Cause like, this is so fucking concerning to me. Holy shit. Okay. First update. Hi all. First, I want to thank you all for your responses and suggestions. I'm so overwhelmed by the replies and was unable to read them all. But I'm glad and terrified to see that I'm not going crazy, that there is something wrong. And I also want to thank those who shared their experiences with being groomed/sexually assaulted, as it opened my eyes to a lot of things. Second, I'd like to clarify a few things. I did not let my child in David's car after the bedroom incident. I would never do that. After this occurrence, tied with the laundry situation, I began to take note of David's behavior, which was when I started putting the pieces together. I came to Reddit shortly after, and here we are, unfortunately. Third, I'd like to address a couple questions I've seen. 1, David is not on any sex offender registry. 2, by saving water, David meant that he combines loads of laundry, meaning that he'll do his laundry and Roman's laundry in the same load. The laundry that I've seen go missing are mostly socks, which is typical, even when Roman was doing his own laundry. But then Roman told me that he was missing a couple shirts and a pair of underwear. That alarmed me, since this only happened once David started doing his laundry. Massive red flag. 3, the texts between them really are innocent. David asking him what he wants for dinner, what time he should pick him up, discussing shows they've been watching, but based on his other behavior, it's clearly a grooming tactic, and I'll be sure that it stops immediately. No way in hell should he be texting my kid at school. 4, the bedroom situation, in clear detail. I peeked in to make sure that Roman was asleep, and David was at the foot of his bed. The room was, of course, pitch black, and I was groggy as hell, so I didn't even register that it was him until he pushed past me to leave. I checked on my son afterwards. He was still asleep, and the blankets were fully over him. Nothing seemed out of the ordinary, but maybe I just intervened at the right moment. I made sure his door was open, and I left my door open as well so I could listen for any footsteps. I could not sleep after that happened. It just wasn't sitting right with me. None of these are excuses. Like I said, eyes are wide open now. 4th, I'll discuss everything with my son tonight once I get off work. A lot of you said it was a good idea, and I was already planning on doing it. He has not been acting strange in any way and is his usual happy self, but that doesn't mean that David hasn't done anything yet. The reality is terrifying me, and I pray that that's not the case. I pretty much have a clear idea on what to say to him, but I'm not sure if I should explicitly tell him that I found David in his room or that he might be stealing his clothing. Any suggestions on how to go about that conversation are welcome. 5th, I fully plan to confront David and talk to my sister Sarah about this. I am not a doormat, and I will do anything to keep my son safe. David is on a church retreat and thankfully has not been home for a few days. I've decided to speak with my sister first, in case David twists my words or manipulates her into believing that nothing is wrong. And once he returns, I'll confront him based on how my sister reacts. Any other suggestions on how to go about it are also welcome. 6th, I've read your suggestions about setting up cameras, checking for cameras, drug testing my son, and finding his missing articles of clothing. I plan on buying cameras and drug testing him once we have a conversation. I did look for cameras and found nothing, but I'll look again. I'm terrified of what I might see if I end up finding Roman's missing clothing. But I know it's just a reality that I have to face, that people can be disgustingly vile to a child. Lastly, I know I need to get out of this house. I know that. I'm working on it. If I could pack up everything tonight and do it, I would. I'd send him to live with my ex-husband, but he's abusive towards my son and me. More so towards me, but still. I've considered your suggestions about looking into homeless shelters, and I'm leaning towards making arrangements for that after I confront David. I'm a good mom, but I know I'm not the best mom. This past week has been hell. I should have intervened earlier, and I regret that. I'm so stressed. Okay. there's so many updates, so we're just going to like go through the updates and I'm just going to shut the fuck up until the end. Update 2. In the past 4 days, I spoke with my sister Sarah, her boyfriend David, and my son Roman, all separately. 1 went well, 2 didn't. I have a lot to get off my chest, so this might be long. My first conversation was with my son, which occurred the night I posted my first update. In fear of this post getting removed like my first one, I'll have to censor myself, but I think you'll understand what I'm referring to when I say that I asked my son the serious and explicit questions. Roman adamantly denied that David ever did anything to him. He seemed surprised that I even asked. He said he would have told me if he had, and I believe him. I know he could be lying, but I'm trying to take his word for it. My son and I have a very open and transparent relationship. The first time my ex-husband ever verbally abused him, he came straight to me and he told me about it. My guard is up, but I have to give him the benefit of the doubt. Like you all advised me, I didn't bring up the bedroom or laundry situation, but I was honest with him and told him that David's behavior towards him was inappropriate. We had to talk about boundaries, saying no, consent, etc. I drilled into him that David is not to drive him anywhere, text him anymore, and be around him alone under any circumstances. I also explained what grooming is, and that it's what David has been doing to him. He said he knew about it through a school assembly, and then he said something that broke my heart. He apologized for letting David treat him that way, that he, quote, shouldn't have felt for it. His exact words. I assured him that none of this was his fault. I want to make it clear that David is not preying on him because of how he looks or how he acts. He is doing it because he is a predator and may prey on the vulnerable. Honestly, I could tell that the conversation had left him a little shell-shocked. To know that the person you liked and trusted isn't who you thought he was would leave any kid rattled. For the entire rest of the night, he followed me around like a lost puppy. It did break my heart a little to see him like that, but I don't want him to feel a false sense of security around David, so I have no regrets about it. Sarah was next. I knew it would turn into an argument before the conversation even began. It's always been that way with her. My sister is nice, but not kind. She'll take you in off the street, but then throw it back in your face if you cross her. So I knew what I was getting into, but I had to do it, not only for my kid's sake, but also for hers. This is not a man I want her to be with, have children with, and nor do I want him in our family, period. I told her that I was uncomfortable with the way David acts around Roman, and that I think it's a lot deeper than what he portrays it to be. I mentioned that I didn't like the gift giving and the constant texting, and I brought up the bedroom and the laundry incidents. Like I predicted, she was more offended that I was accusing her boyfriend of grooming my son. She didn't see how that was proof of anything. Do you know how many socks and pairs of underwear I've lost while doing laundry? It's probably stuck somewhere in the dryer. The more I expressed my concerns, the more defensive she got. She thinks I'm manic. Essentially, she said that as soon as things get good for me, a roof over my head, food in the fridge, and a steady job, I intentionally screw it up because deep down, I don't think I deserve happiness. That she tries to help me every time, but I end up stabbing her in the back, like I am right now. So she doesn't believe me. That's her prerogative. Fine. I told her that I won't be staying at her house much longer and that I don't want David around my kid anymore. That we'll be keeping to ourselves for the rest of the short time here. She's letting me stay, surprisingly, but she said she's glad to see me go. She swore up and down that David would never hurt Roman, and that she was sad to see their relationship ruined over an accusation with no real basis. That I shouldn't let my self-destructive behavior and my bipolar paranoia get in the way of other people's happiness, and that I better not accuse her boyfriend of being a predator anymore. Essentially, she kept shifting the blame onto me, so I ended it there. Oh, and she told me that she wants reimbursement for things like clothing and grocery shopping because apparently we're draining her wallet with buying so much food. Yes, an 8th grader going through a growth spurt eats a lot. Shocker. But I apologized and said I'd buy his and my groceries from now on. David came back from his church retreat Friday morning, which is when I confronted him. I was very upset, so I didn't go easy on him. He was thrown off by my hostility, but once he understood what I was implying, his demeanor shifted. Sit down, let's talk about it, he kept saying. Except he was the one who was nervous and looked like he was on the brink of a panic attack. I kept my composure. I asked him why he was in my son's room in the middle of the night with the door shut. He gave me the same excuse, that he was looking for his cell phone. I asked him why he couldn't have gone for it in the morning, and he said that he set the alarm to 5 a.m. for work, and that he didn't want it to go off with my son in the room and wake him up. I asked him why he was sitting over my son's bed. He admitted that he was trying to wake him up and ask him if he'd seen his phone. Did he not just say that he didn't want the alarm to wake him up? I asked him what on earth would compel him to think it's okay to wake up my child in the middle of the night to help him look for a cell phone. He said he wasn't thinking straight and that he was sorry. I asked him about the missing laundry as well. He adamantly denied what I was implying. He said that his and my sister's clothing get lost in the laundry all the time, that he would help me find my son's missing clothing, all while apologizing profusely. I'll admit, I was thrown off by how apologetic he was, and it made me a little bit soft. I thanked him for letting us stay in his house, and I apologized for not setting boundaries earlier, but I told him that from now on I didn't feel comfortable with him being around my son. No more driving him places, buying him gifts, texting him, helping him with homework, doing his laundry, etc. I essentially told him that he is no longer allowed to be alone with my son or touch his things under any circumstances. He broke down in tears. He was hysterical. The thought of me believing that he was preying on my son made him miserable, that he'd never do that. He said, quote, "I love him like a father loves a son." When reading my original post, a lot of you believed the same thing at first, and so did I. But I just don't like the way David looks at him. Yes, I see the kindness in his eyes towards my son as he helps him with homework or watches a show with him. But there's a nuance of something covetous and sinister that I just cannot shake off. Anyway, I told him that it's unhealthy for him to be so fixated on a child and that he cannot depend on my kid for happiness. I told him that we'd be leaving very soon. More on that later. I didn't tell him where or when it was happening. He asked if there was anything he could do to rectify the situation. He suggested that the four of us sit down and talk about it. I declined. I reiterated that he is not allowed near my kid anymore and left it at that. A small part of me feels like I was too harsh on him overall. Maybe he was just looking for his phone. Maybe it's a coincidence that the articles of clothing are missing. But he was on his knees, sobbing like I had just pulled the rug out from underneath of him. For a child he hasn't known for that long, I don't think he was devastated that I'd accused him of being a predator. He was devastated that I revoked his access to my child. I'm not stupid. I once witnessed this man argue with my sister. Brutal, verbal assaults from both sides, which ended in my sister crying, and he didn't shed a tear. For my peace of mind and yours, I have been watching Roman like a hawk. When I'm home, he's with me. When I'm not home, he's at a trusted friend's house or, again, with me. I actually took him to work with me this morning, which he wasn't thrilled about, but whatever. I made him block David's number, of course. We haven't been in the house since Friday, but as some of you suggested, I will sleep in his room at night instead of making him sleep in my room. I'll be honest, I decided to hold off on drug testing him because I really do not think David has been drugging him. My son is a naturally heavy sleeper and has always had issues waking up for school, even before we moved into my sister's house. I checked his text messages, and from what I've seen, he's never texted David at night. He's usually up texting his friends in a group chat. Like you all suggested, I purchased a nanny cam, specifically the one where you can watch the footage on your smartphone. I wasn't expecting it to be so pricey. I ordered them on Wednesday, and they are due to arrive tonight or Monday morning. I'll put it in my son's room and review it every day. I'm really nervous because there's a possibility that I'll see something odious, and I don't know if I can handle that. Lots of you have voiced your concern for my kid. From what I've seen and from what he's told me, he's doing fine. We've been staying at a motel for the weekend now that David has returned from his church retreat. I wasn't taking any chances. $56 a night and a little sketchy, but I don't want to complain. Again, despite the situation, his mood has been a lot better than mine has. He thinks a motel is the same as a hotel, so to him, it's like we're on a mini vacation. It's mind-blowing how kids can be so resilient, even in the most unnerving situations. The majority of you have told me to go to a woman's shelter. I looked into this, and while it's an option, the closest one to where I live is more than an hour away. I don't have a car. I can take the bus, my usual mode of transportation, but that disrupts his commute to school and my commute to work. It's still winter and freezing cold where I live, so I'd rather watch him like a hawk than live on the street and subject him to cold weather. And I am not taking him back to my ex-husband's house. There's a reason why he left and why I divorced him. Which brings me to some good news. I applied for public housing a long while back, and I'm in the process of getting approved. They contacted me for documentation, which I submitted, and I got verified, so I think that's a good sign. I'm very fortunate, since I know waitlists can be long sometimes. I can't believe I'm holding it together so well, but I'm proud of myself. I think I'm doing everything I can. Thank you for listening, and I'll update again shortly with hopefully better news. Edit, this goes without saying, but I will of course talk to my son about putting a camera in his room before I do so.
If you want extra content weekly, head over to patreon.com/storytimesociety and become a member on there for extra content. Love you.
Wow, okay. These updates are long as actual hell. I mean, I'm loving it because there's a lot of detail in here, but my throat's starting to hurt. This is the third update. I have both bad news and good, really good news. Due to the bad news, I'm not mentally doing the best right now, so I'm sorry if this is scrambled, because I don't really know where to start. I'm angry, hurt, disgusted, and as all of my emotions begin to pile upon each other, I'm beginning to spiral a bit. And before anyone begins to worry, I'll put it out there now that my son is doing okay. I guess I'll start off by saying that my son and I weren't in the house much up until Friday of this week. We'd been staying at a local motel that's decently close to his school and where I work. I'm a waitress at a restaurant, and my manager knows that I'm dealing with housing issues, so he's been a bit understanding with me when I call out. But when you don't work, you don't get paid. And between the lifts, takeouts, and motel costs, my wallet isn't doing so great. But I'm 100% making it work, and I have no regrets. Since we weren't at the house, things sort of escalated a bit. David's number is blocked on Roman's phone, but he found him on TikTok and Instagram on Monday night and messaged him there. Nothing explicit in the messages, just things like, "Did you block my number? I really miss talking to you. Is everything okay? Maybe in the future we can talk to each other again. I'm sorry if I upset you or your mom. Are you and your mom safe? Where are you staying? Respond to me when you get a moment. I have something important to tell you." And many more like that. Just him begging my son for a conversation. I was livid when my son showed me this. I think what set me off the most is that I know David messaged him because he thought my kid would respond without telling me. He thinks they have some secret, private relationship right under my nose that I'm interfering with. I'm pretty sure that's why he hasn't kicked me out of his house. He's not mad, just miserable and desperate for some sort of contact. I feel like no matter how hard I pull my son away from David, he's refusing to let go. We blocked the Instagram and TikTok accounts immediately, and I screenshotted the messages. I'm trying to keep a record of everything. I asked Roman to delete his Snapchat account just in case, but he didn't want to do that. I'm 99% sure he has a girl on there that he likes. I let that slide because he came straight to me about the other accounts, and he agreed not to add any new accounts on Snapchat or post anything that gave away our location for the time being. The entire ordeal upset my son. He broke down in tears when he came back from school the next day. That hurt a lot to see. I don't know if I expressed this, but Roman genuinely liked David, and they got along well. Maybe my kid saw him as a father figure since he was shunned and neglected by my ex-husband. I think I underestimated the mental toll it would take on him from having to cut David off completely and then block him when he reached out privately. Someone noted that I should get him into therapy soon. I plan on doing that once we're securely living in our own and I find the money for it. It's definitely a priority. David's harassment spilled over to me too. He called me multiple times and texted me things like, "Let me know when you're back so we can resolve this. Am I allowed to attend Roman's baseball game on Thursday with you? I'd like to support him. Can you please answer? I'd really love to talk, just us. I'm sorry if I gave you both the wrong impression." I didn't block his number on my phone. I figured that the more he talked, the more likely he'd continue to incriminate himself and I could use his words against him. I didn't answer a single one of his questions, but I let him know that if he contacted my kid ever again, or if he showed up to his school or any events, that I'd go straight to the police. And that's not an empty threat either. unbeknownst to him, I am getting the police involved because I now have solid evidence that this man has a sick obsession with my child. This is the bad news, and I'll forewarn you that if you're easily triggered, please don't read any further, or at least skip this in the next 2 paragraphs. I want to thank you all for confirming my suspicions in the first post because I found something heinous. I mentioned that I planned to set up a camera in Roman's room. I asked for his permission first, and he said he didn't care since we're barely in the house anymore. The camera I chose is motion sensitive, and it links the footage to my iPhone, so I can watch it anywhere. The camera was set up on Sunday night as soon as I received the package, and I hid it above the door frame so that it overlooked the entire room. You can't see it unless you use a ladder. I didn't get anything for a couple days. I was randomly notified of movement in the room but saw nothing when I looked at the footage. But on Wednesday evening, at around 6, David came into my son's room, stood there for a moment, and then left, no longer than a minute. An hour-ish later, he returned and started going through his drawers. He picked up a specific garment and left within less than 2 minutes. I wanted to throw up. I didn't sleep that entire night at the motel. The following day, I had someone cover my shift, which gave me the opportunity to do a deep search of David's room while he was at work and my son was at school. I found the article of clothing inside of his pillowcase, on top of the pillow, right where he would lay his head to rest at night. I was so sick to my stomach that it took me almost 2 hours to confiscate that article of clothing and check it for evidence. I won't elaborate, but you can infer what I mean. I was nauseated the entire time. All I could do was put on gloves, throw it in a Ziploc bag, and shove it into my closet. I didn't want to look at it or even think about it. I still don't. That answers the question of why David was so insistent on doing my kids' laundry. Who knows how long this has been going on? I've been ruminating on the next steps to take. Besides my main priority, going to the police, my other priority is telling my sister Sarah. We're obviously not on the best of terms right now. She found out that I confronted her boyfriend last week and she is livid. How dare I accuse him of grooming my son? Apparently, he's not the same man ever since we left. And he returned to his old habits. He was back to going to bars with his friends every evening. His drinking got worse. He stopped coming home early from work and dragged himself through the door at almost midnight, if he even bothered coming home, that is. And he was no longer affectionate towards her. Apparently, it's my fault that he's depressed again. If those aren't red flags, I don't know what is. I can't tell if she's in denial or if she can't actually see them. But what she's most concerned about is that David hasn't been home since Thursday. He went to work, came home briefly, and then left again without telling her when he'd be back. In my head, that makes sense. He knows that either she or I took the garment that was inside of the pillowcase, and now he's afraid to come home. It confirms all of my suspicions. I will tell my sister everything, though, probably tonight or tomorrow. I have no idea how to go about it, and I guess I'm nervous about her reaction. She's still convinced that I'm having a manic episode. I was diagnosed with bipolar 1 many years ago, and I take medication to manage it. If I go off my meds, my mania will progressively get worse until I spiral into psychosis. So her concerns are valid. I put her through a lot back when I wasn't stable. But that's not the current case for me right now. I have tangible proof and video proof of her boyfriend being a creep. I can bring up the camera footage, but then I have the issue of not getting either of their consent to put a camera in their house, and I don't know how well that will go over with her, even if it was for good reason. I just know that if I were in her shoes, I would be grateful that my boyfriend, potential fiance, was outed as a predator before I got engaged to him. She's pretty much past the age of having children, but has plans to adopt in the distant future. So I have to tell her, somehow. My son and I have been back in the house since Friday night. My sister still isn't kicking me out, but she doesn't want me here anymore, and she's made that very clear. The only reason why I haven't packed our things and left is because, again, David is gone. He won't tell anyone his whereabouts and has turned off his location on his phone, according to my sister. She thinks he might be crashing on a friend's couch, something he's done multiple times in the past. I think he knows I'm on to him, but his absence means that I can stay at the house for now. I'm still watching my kid like a hawk and staying hypervigilant. Still sleeping in his room, taking him to work with me, etc. I can live with the hostility from my sister as long as he's safe. especially since we won't be here for much longer. Which leads me to the good news. I got approved for public housing. I won't share too many details, but I will share the most important one. We'll get to move in a little over 3 weeks. There are a lot of logistics that I need to work out. The school bus system, a mode of transportation to work, etc. But I'm glad that something is working in my favor after this week of hell. The constant vigilance is exhausting, and I can't wait to be in a safer environment. I guess all I really have left to say is that I'm not sure how to go about providing the evidence I have to the police. When I give them what I have, they'll start some sort of kind of investigation, right? I'm just nervous that I could get into trouble for the camera, and the messaging that counts as harassment, right? Do I tell my sister everything before I go to the police? Any advice you can give is welcome, because I've never been in a situation like this before, and I really don't want to mess it up. Just because I'm leaving does not mean that I'm letting David get away with what he's done. Okay, there is an edited to add. It says, thanks for all for the overwhelming advice. I put the clothing into a paper bag. I had no idea how plastic could affect it. I will make copies of the text and the camera footage. I will not be telling my sister anything for the time being, and I'm going to go to the police tomorrow. I'm looking into getting a lawyer as well. Roman School has already been informed that I'm the only guardian that is allowed to pick him up. He will be staying with a friend tomorrow night, and once I have saved a little money, I will move us back to the motel. Guys, this is insane. I mean, thank God that this mom cares enough, because in certain situations some wouldn't, and it would just escalate and be so bad. But this man better get what's coming to him. And there's more updates. I think there's 2 more updates. No, there's 1 update. Okay. There's 1 more update. So this is the final update so far. And I really hope, I need this man to be arrested immediately. He's pissing me the fuck off. You're disgusting. Yeah, you're depressed. Probably because you don't have a little victim. Imagine if this woman would adopt a child and he would prey on that child. That's insane to me, that some people actually ignore things like this so much, to the point where you're going to put a child in danger by keeping this man around. Update 4. Hi all, this is my 4th update. It's a bit weird to be sharing the personal details of my life to thousands of people online, but I feel like I owe it to you all, and it helps me keep track of everything, so I don't mind. Not to mention how helpful your advice has been. As I've never encountered a situation like this, and I was terrified that I would make the wrong move and mess everything up, so thank you all so much for being so kind and helpful. There's a lot I have to talk about. I did go to the police, and an arrest will most likely be made in the near future. Before I get into that, I think I'll start with the escalation in David's behavior and his whereabouts, and then circle back to what happened with the police. Hopefully, the timeline still makes sense. In my last update, I left off with David's disappearance after I found out what he did with my son's clothing and confiscated it. It turns out that David was not on the run, nor missing, nor crashing on a friend's couch. He holed up at his parents' house and is still currently there. My sister informed me that due to my accusations of him grooming my son, David had a mental health crisis. She hopes that I'm happy with myself, she said, and she feels the need to stay with him for support. So in other words, he's hiding at his parents' house because either the guilt is getting to him or he's scared, or both. His entire family is infuriated with me. Whatever story he's feeding them is making me look insane in their eyes. Not once did they ask me for my side of the story. After I went to the police, my sister made the decision to kick me out of her home. I saw it coming a mile away, so I'm not too upset about it. I just wish she didn't feel such fierce loyalty to him and his family. I don't even know how to explain to my kid that his aunt doesn't support him. She does know I was approved for housing, and that I have no other place for our belongings at the moment. So she at least has the decency to let us keep our stuff there until we can fully move out. I guess that counts for something. Not much else to say about that. I've just been trying to keep my distance. David's behavior, though, got so much worse during his mental health crisis. The harassment escalated to stalking under the guise of wanting to clear the air. He showed up to Roman's baseball game that was held at a different school to try to speak with him. That means he found his schedule, the exact time he was playing, and the address of that school. He found the motel we'd been staying at. We had to move to a different one after this incident. And he created 3 other Instagram profiles to message him about how this is all a misunderstanding, how much he misses him, etc. Literally, I'm so disgusted. Some of these messages were awful. Things like, don't let other people make decisions for you, and you're old enough to decide who should be in your life and who shouldn't. Paragraphs and paragraphs of him pouring his heart out to my son and begging him not to tell me that he's been reaching out. This harassment has left my son completely disillusioned. After screenshotting everything, I asked him not to read the messages anymore and to just delete them. At that point, I wanted to take his phone away, but I knew that he would resent me for that. Maybe I made the wrong decision. Maybe I didn't. I don't know. The day David found our motel was one of the most traumatic moments of my life. I don't know how he found us. My sister knows I've been staying at a motel, but I never told her which one. On that day, it was about 9 p.m., and I needed to go to the corner store to grab something. My son was taking a shower and getting ready for bed as he had school the next day. The corner store was a minute's walk away. The room we were staying in was visible from the windows of the store. I'd make this quick trip countless times. In the moment, I didn't feel unsafe leaving my kid behind, but hindsight is always 20/20. I already feel stupid. No need to tell me. David had parked at the lot across the street, and I didn't see his car. He waited until I was almost at the store, and my back was fully turned to go for our motel room door. It was obviously locked, so he started knocking. But by then, I had already heard him and was running in his direction. I nearly blacked out from the fear and adrenaline, and it's hard to remember much. I recall that he didn't seem angry. He just had this miserable, panicked look in his eyes. He really did look like someone who was going through a mental health crisis. I told him I was calling the police and that he needed to leave. He said that he was entitled to a conversation with me, but he ran off once he saw me dialing 911. To me, his reasoning is bullshit. He keeps saying that he wants a conversation and to clear the air with me. But if that were true, then why didn't he approach me? He knew I wasn't in the room. Why did he essentially try to break in when he knew that my son was in there alone? I, of course, documented this incident with the police, which I will get into right now. On Monday, March 27th, the day after my last update and days before the aforementioned events occurred, I went to the police for the first time. The police officer I spoke with sat me down and gave me the opportunity to talk about everything. How David was very close with Roman, what I caught him doing with his clothes, the messages, etc. Thank God for these posts, because I found myself referring back to them. Memory can be unreliable. I presented the evidence that I had as well. I showed the video footage and gave her the article of clothing I confiscated, as well as the text messages and Instagram and TikTok messages. She then told me she would contact the district attorney, which she did soon after. I was shocked by how fast the process was moving, and she told me that since it involves the potential sexual abuse of a minor, they don't want to waste any time. I was interviewed again by a detective, and a couple days later, they called David in for an interview. By then, the stalking had begun. During my second interview, I showed him the new messages David sent and told him about how David showed up to the school and the motel. I don't know what they asked David during his interview, but I can imagine that he denied everything and spun up a web of lies to try to make me look crazy. I'm not really concerned about him, though. With all the evidence I have, David should be very, very nervous. A detective interviewed my son as well. This is what worried me the most, and I insisted that if they didn't have to do it, I'd rather they didn't question him at all. But they said it would help build a stronger case, and I trust them. I was told I had to be there during this interview, since he's a minor. Roman only knows about the stalking and harassment, but he has no idea about what David did with his clothes, and I want to keep that away for as long as I can. I personally asked the detective not to bring it up. I would just like to shield him from it all. They asked my son about the messages and the stalking as well as their relationship, and when asked about any physical contact they had, Roman brought something up that he didn't initially tell me about. He said there was one instance when he and David were in the living room watching a show called Stranger Things. David randomly placed his hand on my son's chest, left it there for a moment, and then said, "I'm glad you're alive." I don't really know what to make of that, but combined with everything else he's done, it's very disturbing. I asked my son about it afterwards, and he said that he didn't tell me because it didn't make him feel uncomfortable. As an isolated event, I guess it could seem like an innocent act to a 13-year-old. So I understand why he didn't bring it up, but I don't know. All I can do is take his word for it. In terms of the case, they are now requesting a warrant of arrest with the clerk of the court. If this is granted, then David will be arrested and charged with lewd and lascivious behavior, harassment, and stalking. Lascivious behavior, harassment, and stalking. He could end up getting up to 5 years in prison, maybe even more since a minor is involved. So that's where I'm at right now, waiting for the clerk's decision. The waiting game is stressful, but I'm trying to focus on the positives as much as I can. It's nice to see how fast the police and the detectives are working and how serious they're taking my case. All I can do is trust that the outcome will be in my favor. After the interviews, all of David's harassment stopped. Good thing, too. Stalking and harassment of a minor is a felony, and I'm sure knowing that the police are onto him scared him. I'm not naive enough to feel safe, though. I filed a petition for a protective order after the motel incident. I've been feeling paranoid. Not a good feeling for someone who's bipolar. And having a lot of anxiety lately. After looking over my shoulder, flinching when I see a stranger who looks like him, etc., quote, "I'm entitled to a conversation with you," he said when he tried to break into my hotel room. I don't believe him. I think David believes he's entitled to unrestrained access to my child due to their prior relationship. The entitlement is what scares me the most, that someone can just take something because they feel like it belongs to them. I'm scared to go anywhere with my kid. Anytime he goes to school, I fear that will be the last time I see him. It hasn't sunk in yet that my situation has developed into this. It's been difficult for me to wrap my head around. Where David's sudden attachment stemmed from, I was under the impression that predators are in general weird around children, but he never acted this way around other children, only mine. When he started dating my sister, she told me that David didn't want kids, and she was trying to convince him to change his mind. That's why she was so happy to see him and my son bond. Someone previously commented that, in David's mind, he might believe that there's a legitimate romantic connection between him and my son. I don't know if there's any validity to that, and the idea of looking into that makes me nauseous. I'd rather not speculate and just pray that he gets arrested soon. The biggest drawback is that all of this has significantly disturbed our quality of life. I know that my kid is putting on a brave face, but he's not doing well. It's getting to him, and I knew that it would. But actually seeing this siphon his happiness away is gut-wrenching. He's still doing fine at school, still eagerly partaking in sports and spending time with his friends, but every once in a while, he'll do the 1,000-yard stare, his eyes bereft of any sort of awareness. He used to eat a ton, but he hasn't been finishing his food lately. He constantly says that he doesn't feel well. I can't afford therapy right now, but I did speak with his school counselor, and they want to start weekly meetings with him to check in, which my son was not thrilled about, as he does not want to bring any of this up at school. He's very open with me about his feelings, and we do talk about everything that's been going on. But there's only so much I can do. He needs a professional. I'm not doing well either. I'm exhausted. I've never felt so overwhelmed in my life. My mental health is on a rapid decline. I'm not sleeping or eating. I can barely get through a shift at work without breaking down, and even my intrusive thoughts have been alarming and distressing. You don't think you're capable of these things until you're in this situation. There really is no going back once you find something like that out. I don't have a lot of people to talk to about this. I think I need help. Hopefully my next update is more positive. Thank you for listening. And then there's a note. It says OOP deleted her account shortly after the 4th update was removed. So unfortunately, it seems like we won't be getting any future updates. We'll just have to hope for the best for her and her son. Okay, I mean, obviously that's not like fully resolved and fully concluded, but I think that with how serious the police were taking that situation, I only have high hopes for that. This was posted in 2023, this 4th update, so I don't think that we're probably going to be getting any update unless maybe she thinks about it randomly. And I don't understand why people, what is the reason for the moderators to be removing posts, especially like this? Like, is it, I don't know. It's like, this is like a serious story, and I feel like it would be important to keep this type of story up there. And it kind of like bothers me. Like, I guess, like, I don't know, whatever. But that is just really scary. And I mean, the one thing that I'm really happy about is how serious the cops took it. I'm like exhausted after reading that story. I mean, it was very long, but also just the details of it and just thinking about that man and just the fact that there are people like that out there and he's not the only one is just so concerning and sad and scary to me. And I just feel so awful that kids have to go through and put up with people like that every day, and even worse situations come from people like that. But that's the end of that episode. Sorry, I'm just like, I don't have much else to say, and I'm kind of exhausted from reading that. Like, that was just a lot to, I'm sure, I can't even imagine how exhausting it is for that poor kid and his mother. And I hope that her sister literally burns in hell. She's an awful human being. But anyways, I love you guys, and I'll talk to you in the next episode. Bye. See you later, alligator.
My merch is out. Yeah, but this is it. And this comes in pink, black, and white. If you want to get a little cute piece of merch, go grab one. Link is in the description to purchase.
Love you guys. Thanks for watching. Please like, comment, and subscribe.